Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Granth Singh, and as many of you may know, I was with Yogi Bhajan for 30 years. And so I was very interested to view the live streaming video of the events this weekend where they were celebrating Yogi Bhajan's death after 10 years now. What is the most important for me as a Sikh is what Guru Sahib Ji in the Hukamnama on Sunday said. And I think it really sums up the whole weekend of the events. Aasaa mėhlā, Aasaa first Mehl. Where are the games, the stables, the horses? Where are the drums and the bugles? Where are the sword belts and chariots? Where are those scarlet uniforms? Where are the rings and the beautiful faces? They are no longer to be seen here. This world is yours. You are the Lord of the universe. In an instant you establish and disestablish. You distribute wealth as it pleases you. Where are the houses, the gates, the hotels and palaces? Where are those beautiful way stations? Where are those beautiful women reclining on their beds, whose beauty would not allow one to sleep? Where are those betel leaves, their cellars, and the harem? They have vanished like shadows. For the sake of this wealth, so many were ruined because of this wealth. So many have been disgraced. It was not gathered without sin, and it does not go along with the dead. Those whom the Creator Lord would destroy, first he strips them of virtue. Millions of religious leaders failed to halt the invader when they heard of the emperor's vision. He burned the rest houses and the ancient temples. He cut the princess limb from limb and cast them into the dust. This is just part of the hukam. It goes on for quite a few more putties, but what I want to point out here is how, the way I see it is, Guru Sahib Ji is really sending us a message about what Yogi Bhajan was really like. What I observed from listening to the speeches by the Jethedar, the Akal Takht, and some of the other speakers there, that they are really clueless about what really goes on there in 3HO and what Yogi Bhajan was really about. So I want to point out these things to you in this video so that you're aware of what Yogi Bhajan and this 3HO cult really are about. Now I want to say they do some good things. I was impressed by the Sukhmani Sahib that was read, the Gurdwara there, how they play Gurbani Kirtan. And if they kept to these Sikh practices, then there would be no problem. But Yogi Bhajan, unfortunately, has influenced them so that they are doing a lot of things that are completely against the Sikh head. Now this is first example I want to show you about how Yogi Bhajan's picture is kept there in the Gurdwara. And they do Sukhasan and Prakash in front of these large pictures and paintings of Yogi Bhajan. You can see here how for Prakash they bring the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib under this big tantric painting of Yogi Bhajan looming there in the Gurdwara and there in Espanola. You shouldn't be doing this. So if the 3HO people would just drop all these practices of Yogi Bhajans, they would be in really good Sikhs, I think. This is a picture that I took a few years back where you can see that inside there more clearly with that big tantric picture of Yogi Bhajan. And there's from Sunday when they were doing Sukhasan. There, you can see it there. It was in the video. Now, I want to point out how Yogi Bhajan wore these big rings and tantric necklaces that Guru Sahib Ji talks about in the Hukamnama. And they really are against Sikh values. You can see here, this is a picture at the museum there in Amritsar. You can see how other Sikh saints and leaders there don't wear these large rings and jewelries. And Yogi Bhajan did all of his life. He wore huge gems. I also want to point out here too how the Jethedar of the Akal Takht referred to Yogi Bhajan as a Siri Singh Sahib, which was really incorrect. With all due respect, I think the Jethedar of the Akal Takht really is completely clueless and blind to these very severe, un-Sikh-like practices that Yogi Bhajan was involved in. Yogi Bhajan was never given this title of Siri Singh Sahib. And it's really just something that he made up. They don't even have that Siri Singh Sahib on the picture there at the Darbar Sahib at the Sikh Museum there in Amritsar. They just have Bhai Harbhajan Singh. But the Jethedar here in Espanola, when he was speaking, referred to Yogi Bhajan with glowing accolades and went on and on about how he was such a great person. But there was really a lot of things there that were very un-Sikh-like, to say the least, and really were criminal behaviors by Yogi Bhajan. I witnessed all of these things. And there's a good article in the Eugene Register Guard that came out in 2010. It gives testimony from one of his lead secretaries, this Premkakar Khalsa, who said that Yogi Bhajan had raped her. There are other women who have alleged this. And it's just very shameful how Yogi Bhajan covered up all of this. He refused to testify in depositions. I was on security for Yogi Bhajan for many years there in Los Angeles. And I witnessed these secretaries spending the night with Yogi Bhajan. And Yogi Bhajan would just tell us that they were there to protect him. And this is, now I realize that Yogi Bhajan was having sexual intercourse with them, raping them. It's just very shameful. I'm really ashamed to say that I didn't have the presence back then to stand up to this rapist, Yogi Bhajan. These are the lawsuits here you can see that Premka filed. So we should all know this about Yogi Bhajan, and the 3HO people shouldn't be worshiping him. I noticed in these videos how the Yogi Bhajan people just really worship Yogi Bhajan, and they talk like he's a guru. And Yogi Bhajan planted these seeds in their minds, I think through hypnosis. He was basically a psychopath, pathological liar, and we need to stand up to this, and we need to make people aware of this. These are some paintings, drawings that Yogi Bhajan made back in the 1980s. I had an interest in art and had an art gallery, and he gave me these drawings, and you can see they're clearly phallic in nature, really disgusting. Some of these I loaned to the Yogi Bhajan people to put into a book later on. They called it The Game of Love. They should have called it The Game of Lust. It's really shameful how you can see here how during this celebration the Yogi Bhajan people have been worshiping Yogi Bhajan. You can see their white stars there in this special Kriya meditation they're doing there. You can see Yogi Bhajan's portrait there, also with this statue, this murti of Baba Siri Chand. These are more of those really awful drawings that Yogi Bhajan did. really bad. Here he's even got, down there at the bottom, he's got the word God there with this phallic symbol. He was really demented, Yogi Bhajan, unfortunately. Yogi Bhajan did some good, but there's all these things that the 3HOs just refuse to listen to. And we need to make them aware of these things. Here's where this says God here, and you can see Yogi Bhajan's signature there. What is Yogi Bhajan thinking? What are the 3HO people thinking right now? He's got power written there. Yogi Bhajan was not unlike these Brahmins who would tell these innocent girls that would come to temples that they would just put their lingam inside them and get rid of their karma. You can read these testimonies by Premka and these other secretaries of Yogi Bhajan that sued him. And you can see that this was Yogi Bhajan's intent, to just lure these young women into his bed and have sex with them, basically. So it's really very disturbing how the Yogi Bhajan people continue to worship Yogi Bhajan. Now, this is a picture from this celebrating the living legacy of Yogi Bhajan website where this live streaming has been taking place. And I want to point out, this is the entrance to the Gurdwara there in Espanola, where the SikhNet offices are. And they failed to show this murti of Baba Siri Chand, which you can see there in the back. And in the previous one, of course, you don't see it because they've got it covered up. So they don't want Sikhs to see this. And I'm here to tell you that this is a big part of their practices, is this worship of Baba Siri Chand. You can see them again over there at Yogi Bhajan death place, where they meditate and they do these Yogi Bhajan mantras, where they get attached, this occult attachment to Yogi Bhajan and to these Shiv Shakti practices and worships. This is another thing that shouldn't be in that Espanola Gurdwara, is this mural there in the back. And I know that the Jethadar saw these things. You can see how they have Yogi Bhajan on an equal level with Guru Ram Das. There are Hindu gods and goddesses in this painting. They've got the Sikh gurus like a rosary around this Catholic goddess Mary inside of a Sikh khanda. They're really sacrilegious. This is more of that entrance there to the Gurdwara. I know the Jethadar saw these things because you can't miss them when you go there and enter the Gurdwara there in Espanola. But he just refuses to look at these things. And if you listen to his speech, he just talks in glowing terms about all of these practices of the Yogi Bhajan people. And the reality of it is that there's another side to this that we all would need to investigate. You can see how people have been putting money offerings at this golden idol there. I took those pictures several years ago. And this is another item there in the Gurdwara that the Jethadar ignored. When he did his speech there in the Gurdwara on Sunday, he was looking right at this huge tantric painting of Yogi Bhajan. It was right there in the darbar of the city Guru Granth Sahib, looming over the Yogi Bhajan people. And of course, you know, SikhNet and the whoever's recording this won't show those things. And this is another item here that the Jethadar ignored. I can't see how you could help but have seen it. This is the entrance to Yogi Bhajan's ranch over there in Espanola. And you can see this big murti idol of Ganesh, Hindu god Ganesh. And underneath that, you can see here how there are the title of Yogi Bhajan. This is a video I took a couple of years ago of this same spot there. You can see the big gates there, and that's where they enter. And you can clearly see this is a big murti of Ganesh. Now, I don't know if the Jethadar is just ignorant or what. Maybe he's interested in getting their money. But Sikhs need to realize that there's a lot more going on there than meets the eye. these are pictures from the celebration there where they're doing yoga. I have to say they did some good, nice Gurbani Kirtan there, but they also did some meditations that were clearly disrespectful of Gurbani. When they were whistling to some of these mantras, they did Bangara there, had a Bangara class. These are priorities to the Yogi Bhajan people. These are things that Sikhs do not do. It takes away from their Sikh practice. Now, I also want to point out how Krishnakar, who was one of the only persons who was left from in the Yogi Bhajan group after this 1970 trip to India. There was 85 people who went there. She talked a little bit about how she had taken Amrit there with these other 85 people there in Amritsar in 1970. And there are, least to say, there are conflicting reports about what Krishnakar said about this. And Premka, who was also on the trip, you can see her in this picture there. She says in her affidavit that Yogi Bhajan forced them to take Amrit, and that it wasn't a situation where they had a choice, really. Yogi Bhajan just wanted to impress the Punjabis there, and he clearly did impress them. But it was really a fraud, is what it was. And so you can also read Dr. Trilochan Singh's book, Sikhism and Tantra Yoga, where he talks about this film that's been hidden now by the 3HO people, where he talks about the same Amrit ceremony when he saw this film in his book. And it was clear that the people were not there by their own will. Yogi Bhajan had enticed them to come there, and they really made a mockery of the whole Amrit ceremony. Now, these are more images from SikhNet about how they're glorifying Yogi Bhajan in these poems and things, and they make him out to be really like almost like a guru. So this is a tantric painting, or a photo, I should say, of Yogi Bhajan that he told us to meditate on. And I'll just let you listen here real quick. He talks about how you should watch or meditate on his tantric painting. He says here in this lecture to meditate on his painting. Now you get the idea. He told us to meditate on his picture constantly. Now I want to point out here how Vikram Singh, who was in the Yogi Bhajan group for 20-some years, is now speaking out about Yogi Bhajan and the 3HO people. And Vikram Singh was he was the first Westerner Gora Sikh to practice Gurbani Kirtan, or play Gurbani Kirtan at the Darbar Sahib, Harmandir Sahib in Amritsar. And yet the Yogi Bhajan people, they choose to censor his comments, and they won't listen to this. I don't have to mention that they censor my comments too, and they don't want to listen to anything about it. And Vikram Singh has now been openly talking about how to Bhajanists, as he calls them, Yogi Bhajan people, when they get tired of Bhajanism, they leave Sikhi. And this is a sad fact. So he is still a Sikh. I'm still a Sikh, and there are maybe a couple other people that have remained Sikhs after leaving the Yogi Bhajan group. And you can see here too, Vikram Singh was probably the first person to ever wear a gatra and a kirpan, and SikhNet just refuses to acknowledge that. So let's get SikhNet and these other Yogi Bhajan people to listen to some of our appeals to change. They should stop using these images of the Darbar Sahib and Sikh images on their Yogi tea. This is not good. They should also change this thing where they have to follow the teachings of Yogi Bhajan beyond the Sikh Rahat. They signed on to an agreement stating that that's what they would do, follow Yogi Bhajan over the Sikh Rahat. Anyway, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru